Feeling lost? You've been living in someone else's mind.
Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own mind? As if you've woken up in a room you don't recognize, filled with furniture you didn't choose, decorated in a style that isn't yours? The walls are lined with bookshelves, but the books are filled with other people's stories. The radio is always on, but it only plays other people's favorite songs, their opinions, their fears, their advice. And you are there, standing in the middle of it all, feeling a quiet, persistent sense of unease. You look for a quiet corner to sit, a space to simply breathe and be, but there is none. Every surface is covered, every inch of silence is filled. This room, this inner world that should be your sanctuary, has become an echo chamber, crowded with the voices of everyone you have ever known, everything you have ever been told, and every expectation the world has ever placed upon you. And in the ceaseless noise, the most important voice of all your own has become a whisper you can no longer hear. You try to make sense of it. You tell yourself this is normal. This is what it means to be connected, to be informed, to be a part of the world. You learn to navigate the clutter, to live amongst the noise. You adopt the opinions on the radio as your own. You recite the stories from the books as if you wrote them. You even begin to believe that the chaos is a sign of a rich inner life. But deep down, in a place beneath the noise, a profound loneliness lingers. It is the loneliness of the true self, the gentle inhabitant of that room who has been living as a guest in their own home for far too long. This feeling isn't a flaw. It isn't a sign that you are broken. It is a sacred invitation. It is the soul's quiet knock on the door, asking if, finally, you are ready to come home to yourself. It's a call to begin the brave and beautiful work of decluttering your inner world, of quieting the 1,000 voices so you can once again hear the one that truly matters. If this feeling resonates with you, if you have ever felt that ache of being lost within yourself, then I want you to know you are not alone. What we are going to explore together is not just a passing mood. It is one of the most fundamental journeys of the human experience. It is the journey from being a passive resident of your mind to becoming its gentle and loving curator. If you feel ready to begin this exploration, to find the quiet space within, then I gently invite you to journey with us. By subscribing to Mind Decode Explained, you are joining a community of fellow travelers, all learning to navigate their inner landscapes with courage and compassion. Let's walk this path together. So, how did our sacred inner room become so crowded? It didn't happen overnight. It is a slow, subtle process that begins in childhood. When we are very young, the door to our inner room is wide open. We need the voices of our caregivers to survive. Their words, their beliefs, their love, and their fears become the first pieces of furniture. They teach us how to see the world, how to understand ourselves. A loving caregiver helps us furnish our room with pieces that are sturdy and beautiful. A comfortable chair of self-worth. A warm lamp of security. A mirror that reflects our inherent goodness. This is the foundation of what psychologists call secure attachment. We learn that our inner world is a safe place, and that our own feelings and thoughts are valid. But for many of us, the process is more complicated. Sometimes, the furniture we are given is broken or ill-fitting. Perhaps we were handed a heavy desk of perfectionism, a fragile vase of conditional love, or a clock that ticks with constant anxiety. We may have been taught that our own feelings were too much, that our own thoughts were wrong or inconvenient. We learned that to be loved, we had to make space for others' needs before our own. And so, we started to push our own authentic furniture into the corners, into the shadows, to make room for what was expected of us. The great psychologist Carl Jung spoke of this as the development of the persona, the mask we present to the world. It's a necessary part of life. But the danger, he warned, is when we forget that it is a mask and begin to believe it is our true face. We become so accustomed to the borrowed furniture that we forget what our own even looked like. We live our lives according to a blueprint someone else drew for us, and the architect within us falls silent. This process is then amplified 1,000 times over by the world we live in today. Our modern world is not designed to nurture quiet, inner spaces. It is designed for noise. Think of your phone. It is a doorway through which hundreds of voices can enter your room every single day. Social media, news alerts, trending opinions, they are all strangers walking in, uninvited, rearranging your furniture, painting your walls with their colors of outrage, desire, or fear. They don't ask for permission, they just enter. We are told this is connection. But is it? Or is it a constant, low-grade invasion of our consciousness? We scroll through images of other people's perfect rooms, their curated lives, their confident opinions, and we look at our own cluttered, confusing space and feel a sense of shame. We think, I must be doing it wrong, so we try to copy them. We buy the same furniture, play the same music, adopt the same beliefs, hoping that if our room looks like theirs, we will feel the same sense of belonging and certainty they seem to have. This is the seductive pull of social proof and groupthink. Our brains are wired to seek safety in the herd. When we see thousands of people believing something, our instinct is to believe it too. It feels safer than standing alone. But this instinct, which once protected us on the savannah, can now imprison us in echo chambers. We fill our room only with voices that sound like the ones already there. This is the essence of confirmation bias. We stop seeking truth and start seeking validation. We stop asking, what do I truly feel? And start asking, what am I supposed to feel? One of the greatest thorns, one of the deepest misconceptions we carry, is the belief that this inner confusion is a sign of weakness. We are taught to admire certainty, to equate confidence with competence. We see someone speaking with absolute conviction, and we think they must have it all figured out. And so we hide our own doubt, our own beautiful, sacred uncertainty. We pretend to know because we are terrified of being seen as lost. But what if that feeling of being lost is not the end of the journey, but the beginning? What if uncertainty is not a weakness, but a doorway to a deeper knowing? The renowned researcher and storyteller Brené Brown reminds us that vulnerability is the birthplace of courage and connection. To stand in the middle of your cluttered room and say, I don't know if any of this is truly mine. I don't know who I am beneath all this noise, is an act of profound courage. It is the moment the true inhabitant of the room finally speaks up, not with a roar, but with a vulnerable, honest whisper. And what happens when we ignore that whisper for too long? The clutter doesn't just stay there. It begins to decay. The unexamined beliefs, the suppressed emotions, the borrowed values, they start to create a stale, heavy atmosphere in our inner room. This is the feeling of being stuck, of living a life that looks fine on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. It's the quiet desperation that comes from a soul that cannot breathe. We may try to fix it by adding more furniture, a new job, a new relationship, a new hobby, hoping it will fill the emptiness. But we are just adding more clutter to a room that is already suffocating. The problem isn't a lack of things in the room. The problem is a lack of you. The work is not addition. It is subtraction. It is the sacred act of taking things away, of creating space, of letting in the light, so that you can finally see what has been there all along. The journey of reclaiming your inner room is not about becoming a hermit or rejecting the world. This is another thorn we must gently remove. It is not about building impenetrable walls and living in an empty void. It is about learning to be a discerning gatekeeper. It is about standing at the threshold of your own consciousness and learning to ask a simple, powerful question of every thought, every belief, and every opinion that wants to enter. Are you here to serve my highest truth, or are you just noise? This requires us to cultivate a skill that our society has allowed to atrophy, the art of stillness. The ability to sit in the room, with all its clutter and noise, and to simply be, Not to judge it, not to fix it immediately, but to observe it with a gentle, compassionate curiosity. This is where the real work begins. It starts by choosing to turn down the volume of the outside world, even for just a few minutes a day. It means putting down the phone and picking up a journal. It means turning off the podcast and listening to the rhythm of your own breath. In these moments of intentional silence, something miraculous begins to happen. At first, the silence may feel deafening, even terrifying, because when the external noise fades, the internal noise gets louder. All the voices that have been competing for your attention will scream to be heard. The voice of your inner critic, the voice of past hurts, the voice of societal expectation, they will all rush to fill the vacuum. This is often the point where people give up. They mistake this internal clamor for the silence they were seeking and conclude that it's impossible. They rush to turn the external noise back on, just to drown out the chaos inside. But if you can stay with it, if you can breathe through that initial discomfort, you will discover something profound. You will realize that you are not those voices. You are the one who hears them. You are the space in which they arise and fall. This is the beginning of what spiritual traditions call the witness or the observer self. You are the calm, quiet awareness behind the clutter. And in that realization, you find your power. You are no longer a victim of the chaos in your room. You are the gentle curator who can begin to decide what stays and what goes. You can start with one small corner. You pick up one piece of borrowed furniture, an old belief you inherited from your family, for instance. A belief like, I must always be productive to be worthy. You don't throw it out violently. You simply hold it. You look at it with curiosity. You ask it questions. Where did you come from? Whose voice is this, really? Have you ever truly served me? Have you made me happy? Or have you just made me tired? You thank it for trying to protect you, for the role it once played, and then, with love, you decide if it still belongs in your home. Maybe you decide to gently place it outside the door, and in its place, there is now a small patch of open space. It feels new. It feels a little empty, but it is your space. You can breathe there. You continue this process, piece by piece. You examine the opinions you absorbed from the media, the expectations you internalized from your culture, the limitations you accepted from a teacher long ago. Some things you will keep. A cherished value from a grandparent might be a beautiful heirloom you choose to polish and place in the center of the room. A piece of wisdom from a book might be a lamp you keep on for guidance. You are not creating a sterile, empty room. You are creating an authentic one, a room that reflects you. This is the heart of what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming an individual, whole and undivided. By integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of ourselves, it is about claiming ownership of your entire inner world, the light and the shadow. This brings us to the most crucial moment of the journey. As you clear more and more space, you will inevitably come face to face with the things you have hidden in the dark. The dusty boxes of grief you never unpacked, the locked chests of shame, the ghosts of past failures. Our tendency is to want to get rid of these things immediately. But the path to wholeness is not through exclusion, but through compassionate inclusion. These, too, are part of your story. They are the furniture of your resilience. As the physician and trauma expert Dr. Bessel van der Kolk has shown, our bodies and minds hold on to these experiences. To ignore them is to leave parts of our own room inaccessible to us. The breakthrough comes when we can bring a soft light of awareness to these dark corners, when we can sit with the sadness, when we can acknowledge the shame, not to be consumed by it, but to integrate its lessons, to say, this happened, this hurt, and it is a part of the history of this room. It has made me who I am. It is in this space of quiet, clear seeing that we discover the greatest truth. The greatest enemy of our inner knowing is not ignorance. It is not an empty room. The greatest enemy as the physicist Stephen Hawking once alluded to in a different context, is the illusion of knowledge. It is the room so cluttered with borrowed ideas, so loud with second-hand opinions, that we believe it is full, that we believe we already know who we are. We mistake the noise for substance. We mistake the clutter for identity. The true breakthrough is the humble, earth-shattering admission. I don't know. In that sacred emptiness, in that clearing, you have so bravely created, a new voice can finally begin to emerge. It is not loud, it is not demanding, it is a quiet, steady, resonant hum. It is the voice of your own intuition, your own wisdom, your own soul. It has been there all along, waiting patiently for you to create enough silence to hear it. This is the moment you stop being a guest. This is the moment you claim your home. So how do we live from this place? How do we keep our inner room clear and beautiful, a true sanctuary in a noisy world? This is not a one-time cleaning. It is a daily, gentle practice of tending to your inner space. It is an ongoing relationship with yourself. First, you commit to a practice of gentle awareness. Each day, you consciously stand at the door of your mind and notice what is trying to get in. As you read an article or listen to a friend, you ask, how does this feel in my body? Does this resonate with my truth, or is it just a compelling story? You are no longer a passive consumer of information. You are a conscious creator of your inner environment. Second, you cultivate courageous boundaries. You learn to say no. No to conversations that drain you. No to media that makes you feel anxious or inadequate. No to the endless pressure to have an opinion on everything. Saying no to the outside world is a profound act of saying yes to your inner world. You give yourself permission to be uninformed about things that do not feed your soul. You protect your silence as you would protect a precious treasure. Third, you nourish your authentic voice. You find ways to let it speak. This could be through journaling, through art, through walking in nature, through conversations with a trusted friend where you dare to say, I'm not sure what I think yet. You deliberately seek out experiences that make you feel alive and connected to yourself, not to a trend. You read books that challenge you, that make you think and feel deeply, rather than just skimming headlines that provoke a reaction. You are feeding your soul, not just your intellect. And finally, you practice self-compassion. There will be days when you find your room is cluttered again, days when you let the noise back in, days when you fall back into old patterns. On those days, you do not meet yourself with judgment. You meet yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. You simply notice, without criticism, and say, the room has gotten a bit messy. It's time to gently tidy up again. You open a window, you let in some fresh air, and you begin again. This is not a journey of perfection. It is a journey of returning. Returning, again and again, to the quiet, sacred center of your own being. Living this way changes everything. You will find that your decisions become clearer. Your relationships become more authentic. Your life begins to feel less like a performance and more like a genuine expression of who you are. You will still hear the noise of the world, but it will no longer have the power to overwhelm you. It becomes like the sound of rain on the roof of a warm, safe house. You can hear it, you can acknowledge it, but it cannot touch the peace you have cultivated within. You have come home. You are the keeper of your own quiet sanctuary. And from that place of inner stillness and self-trust, you can engage with the world not from a place of fear or reaction, but from a place of centered, compassionate strength. You become a source of clarity in a confused world, a beacon of peace in a sea of noise. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are finally at home with the questions, and you trust the wise, quiet voice that lives within your own heart.